Hi, I'm Arvette. I'm a life coach, and today I am going to be talking to you about the 8 signs to look out for when, like, how to know you're in an emotionally abusive or manipulative relationship. And so I want this to be very quick and punchy, and that I am going to record, this will be a whole series. I am going to record additional videos to go further into these 8 concepts, but I wanted to at least have one video where you could get all 8 in one go. Number 1, the relationship is super intense. When you are in a relationship with someone who is unhealthy, manipulative, emotionally abusive, the intensity that you experience just trying to have a normal conversation with them, you will walk away being very dazed and confused and what just happened? They love intensely and they fight intensely. And it will always seem like so much is coming at you that you don't have a moment to catch your bearings, right? So in the beginning, when you first come into relationship with this person, they will do what is called love bombing. And so they will try to do any and everything to try to win your favor. Like they might be sending you quotes or songs or text messages, but they will be doing it every other minute. It just seems like every second you're getting something, and you may feel like, oh, I need to tell them to stop. But it feels weird because you're like, but it's nice. But even as the relationship continues to go on, every conversation that you have with them, it's like you're walking on eggshells because you if I do the wrong thing, if I say the wrong thing, then it won't just be a regular argument. It's going to be a huge, large scale, atomic bomb type level of fighting. So that's number 1, intensity. Number 2 is jealousy. So at first it won't feel like it's jealousy. At first it'll feel like, oh, they have my best interest at heart. Oh, they're looking out for me. Oh, yeah, that friend, I mean, she is a little bit on the, she likes to use me side, right? And they'll start to put little seeds of doubt in your head, how long have you been friends? Or do you like being friends? Or, oh, that's your favorite cousin. Why is that? Did you notice that she does XYZ? It'll be little conversations like that, which will then, as time goes on, it will start to intensify. It will intensify into you like them more. Oh, when they call you, you pick up. But when I call, I have to wait for you to pick up. Or oh, you're always on the phone with them. But when I ask you to be on the phone with me, you can't. Or, oh, you're going to buy them a gift just because. When was the last time you bought me a gift? It'll just start to, over time, get more and more intense. And they will all if you even say a kind word about someone else, they're going to be like, what about me? Somehow, magically, every situation will come back to them, their feelings, and their experience. And that is all rooted in jealousy. So that's number 2. Number 3 is control. So to give an example, the movie, the book, 50 Shades of Grey, if you watched it, in the beginning, she calls him, she's out with her friends, and then she pretty much is go F you. And then all of a sudden he shows up and she's like, how do you know where I was? And he's like, I needed to protect you because you're drinking, right? If you saw the movie, this makes sense. But even if you haven't, the person, they become really controlling. And at first it kind of seems because of media, 50 Shades of Grey, it seems romantic. But they start popping up at places uninvited in the name of surprising you. Maybe they show up at your job. Maybe they show up at your house just because they were thinking about you and they wanted to get you something. They will try to control you in the sense of telling you how you should. Oh, I like it when you wear your hair like that, or I like when you do this. Again, all these things are very sneaky. It's not as overt or in your face as, TV or people like to think about abusive relationships. It's these little things. It's oh, I like it when you wear these shoes, or I like it when you go to this place, or I like that friend, I don't like this friend, right? what they're trying to do is direct you and change the way that you behave and trying to shape or steer your decisions a certain way. And particularly the popping up piece, because when you start to realize that they have a tendency to just pop up uninvited, right, then you start to become more aware of who you're around, how you look, right? And if they told you that they like you when you wear your hair back, right, even if you're not going, you're going to go hang out with a friend, you're still going to wear your hair back because they might pop up. It's just little things like that. So number 3, controlling. Number 4, which then leads us to number 4, which is isolation. Because you're constantly on edge and you're thinking about how intense your arguments are and how jealous they get and how controlling they get, you may start to act in this way of where you want to just keep the peace and you don't want to go anywhere. You don't want to do anything. You don't want to talk to anyone that may lead to that person being triggered and it leading to a fight or a blow up, right? And so you might start to pull back from your friends, from your family, right? You may not go to events. You may not be able to, you may stop yourself from going to events because if your partner was not invited or they can't go or don't want to go, they make it a big deal, right? You may say, well, I shouldn't go either because if I'm in solidarity with them, right? Going back to the whole jealousy, control situation, if I'm in solidarity with them, then I wouldn't go to this event either. And so you will over time start to distance yourself from other friends and from other relationships. And that's the point, because the more that you are alone and there's not other people around you, then there's not other people to say like, hey, this person's behavior is a little bit suspicious. That's weird, right? So the more that you're not communicating with other people, the less likely you'll be able to see it. All right, so that's number 4. Number 5, which goes along with the jealousy and the control, right, is criticism is number 5. Criticism, right? It goes from, I like it when you wear your hair back to, oh, what's wrong with your hair? Are you going to do something? Why do you have it like that? And you may say well, you told me to wear it back. I'm I would never do that, right? Which goes to a whole nother situation like gaslighting. But essentially it's we all have this critical voice in our heads that's oh, you should do it this way, or things need to be perfect, or why did you make a mistake, right? We also, have that voice in our head. But what I want you to think about is having a person outside of you, someone that you spend all your time with, constantly doing that, saying that to you. Why did you say it that way? Why are you friends with that person? Why are you doing they're constantly questioning, they're constantly picking you apart. So much to the point that it takes you so long to just do something like get dressed. Because you're I want to make sure my hair is right. I want to make sure my clothes are good. I want to make sure that they're going to like it. Or you may think oh, it's Monday today, but you may be thinking oh, what is the weekend? A friend asked me if I should go out, but I should probably check with so-and-so to make sure that they have something to do or they're okay with it or that they don't have anything planned for us, right? It's a lot of crazy making because you have to do a lot of thinking and a lot of future forecasting because you're trying to avoid a very intense blowout. Number 6 is sabotage. Sabotage starts to look I argue that it's from just pure exhaustion of being in a relationship with a manipulative, emotionally abusive person. Right? Because when you're constantly, I was just saying, when you're constantly picking apart all of your decisions, picking apart everything that you say, picking apart how you dress, how you look, who you hang around with, when you constantly are with someone who's criticizing you, jealous, controlling, very intense, right? That starts to do some wear and tear on you. And you may start calling off of work. You may stop going to work altogether. I think about me, when I was in school and I was in an emotionally abusive relationship, I stopped going to class. I stopped doing things that I would never not do. A big part of my identity was being a student, and I found myself missing weeks. I just could not get myself into the car and go because I was just so tired. And that person was telling me, well, you don't even need school. You don't even need that. You're smart, right? And it's just because I was so exhausted with just trying to figure out everything, I just didn't go. And so you may start to find that you sabotage things, right? Maybe that's work, right? Maybe that's relationships. Maybe that's kids. Like, you stop paying attention to your kids because you're so consumed with this relationship. You stop paying attention to yourself because you're so consumed with this relationship. Like, everything becomes about, how do I not piss this person off, essentially? How do I make things better? How do I get back to that person that I knew from the beginning? And if you don't know what I'm talking about, please go watch my last video that I did on this, and I'll put it up here. But like, how do I get back to the person that I knew before? And you become really consumed with it that you start sabotaging yourself. Number 7 is blame. You are the blamed for everything. There's always some logical explanation as to how maybe you didn't remember it correctly, that you forgot this one little thing that you said, so that negates anything that you brought up, that you're not being fair, that you're not being caring enough, you're not being patient enough. It's like, no matter how justified you are in your claims, no matter how many receipts that you have, that person will always find a way to put the blame back on you and force you to take responsibility for it, just so that they don't have to. They don't have to look at them. And you may even be saying, be like, no, but for real, I didn't do this, or I did do that, and that's why they're upset. But did you ever stop to think, like, but is that enough of a reason to not hear you out? Does that mean that, like, how you feel and what you need and want in a relationship is not important? And as someone who used to be really deep in this, I get how challenging it is when someone is trying to tell you that you deserve better, that you, like, there are other people who will treat you better. You're like, but you don't know this person. You don't know, this is my soulmate. Like, you don't know what we've been through. Not realizing that all the things that you've been through was manufactured by this person so that you can have this bond, a trauma bond, in this way. And so then number 8 is anger. And I feel like this is twofold. So going back to how I was talking about how intense the relationship is for number 1, when you do something, all it takes is like one little thing to justify how that person has been harmed or wronged, and they just blow up, they explode, and they start, like, they will not let you live it down. They may even call your friends and family to get other people on their side, and people calling you like, how could you do that? Like, the smallest thing ends up being like, you ran over their 2-day-old cat or something. And I don't mean to run over the cats. I'm just trying to communicate the intensity. So that's one part. But the other part is that you will have so much anger. You will probably be so angry, more angry than you've ever been in your life, which then may lead you to having shame about being so angry. But because this relationship is so intense, and because there's no room for you to have emotions, you start to internalize that. And because you're internalizing your anger because you don't want to show it, because you're just trying to keep the peace, that then turns into anxiety and depression. And you just end up becoming a shell of yourself. Like, you're walking through life in this fog, and you feel like you don't know what's true, and you can't trust yourself anymore. You absolutely can't trust any decisions you're going to make. And you just feel like hopeless and lost. And it is these 8 things that lead to that, is why it's so challenging to get out of emotionally abusive relationships. And that is why I really want to do this series and break down these 8 things, because it's so much deeper. And if there is anyone that you feel like would benefit just from watching this video or hearing this, please, please, please send it to them. But I am going to keep going. I would love to know which one of these resonated with you the most, and just let me know in the bottom, and I will be back with a new video. Bye for now.